The forgotten boxed storage room was cold and smelled like dust and memories. She sat cross-legged on the concrete floor, wearing an old hoodie with sleeves pulled over her hands. Outside the world moved fast camera flashes, red carpets, deadlines, but in here, time slowed down. She hadn't planned to be here today. The room had been locked for years, left untouched in the back of the old studio building where her first major film was edited. She was only here because she needed a quiet place to be alone. Her name was Claire. She was once called the next big thing in Hollywood. Big roles, bright lights, magazine covers. But somewhere along the way, the spotlight had burned too. Hot. Her last film flopped. Critics were cruel. Social media was louder than ever, and the silence in her own head was heavier than any noise. She began to doubt herself. Her team told her to stay positive, but all she wanted was to disappear. That's why she was here hiding. She found the box by accident. It was under an old desk, taped shut, with her name written in faded marker. Fan letters, it said in small, messy handwriting. She blinked. She hadn't seen these in years. Someone had saved them. She pulled the box toward her, tore the tape off gently, and opened the lid. Hundreds of envelopes. Some decorated in stickers, others plain. Some torn at the edges, others still neat. She pulled out the first one, unfolded the paper. The handwriting was shaky, like it came from a child. It said, "Dear Claire, your movie made me feel not alone. Thank you for being brave. I want to be brave too. Love, Ellie, age 10, her breath caught in her throat. She hadn't thought about this kind of thing in a long time. Not since the fame came with pressure. Not since the pressure turned into anxiety. She'd forgotten that her work used to mean something real to real people. Letter after letter, she read. Some from young girls saying she gave them hope. Others from mothers who watched her movies with their children. One from a boy who said he laughed for the first time in weeks after watching her play a silly role. The words started to pull something inside her back to life. Then she found the one with no return address. The paper was yellowed, like it had been written a long time ago. The handwriting was neat, and each word felt careful. But before she could open it, the door creaked. She turned quickly. Her heart jumped. Standing in the doorway, holding a cup of coffee in one hand and a puzzled look in the other, was Keanu Reeves. "Hey," he said softly, stepping in. She blinked. "Keanu, what are you doing here?" He gave a small shrug. "You told me you were somewhere in the back. I came to check on you." She smiled a little, surprised. Keanu wasn't just a Hollywood icon. He was someone who always made her feel safe. They had worked together once years ago on a small project, and since then, he'd become a quiet friend. Respectful, calm, grounded, in an industry full of noise. He was silence with kindness. He sat on the floor beside her without asking. "What's all this?" He nodded toward the pile of letters. "Fan mail," she said quietly. "I forgot about it. I found it today. It's overwhelming, in a good way." Keanu picked up one of the letters and read it to himself, then looked at her with gentle eyes. "These people believed in you." She looked down. "I don't know if I believe in me anymore." He didn't respond at first. He just reached into the box and picked the yellowed letter she hadn't opened yet. "Can I?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. He unfolded it slowly and began to read out loud. "Dear Claire, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I just want you to know, when I was going through the darkest time of my life, your smile reminded me that good things still exist. I watched you laugh in a movie scene, and something about it broke the sadness. I felt human again. I want to thank you for that. Not for being famous, but for being real. You saved a stranger's life. Mine. And if you ever feel lost, please remember someone in this world is still breathing because of you." Keanu stopped reading. Silence filled the room like a blanket. Claire stared at him, tears rising in her eyes. Something shifted inside her chest. Not dramatic, not loud, but deep. "Do you see it now?" Keanu said quietly. "You were never just a star, you were a light. Lights don't go out. They flicker, they dim, but they never fully disappear." She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. I didn't know I mattered that much." He looked at her, not like an actor, not like a colleague, but like someone who truly saw her. "You still do?" They sat in silence for a while. Claire looked at the box again. For the first time in months, the heaviness in her chest didn't feel unbearable. Maybe she didn't need to disappear. Maybe she just needed to remember who she was before. The world told her who to be. Outside, the sun began to dip. The storage room glowed with soft orange light. Claire reached into the box and picked another letter. "Can we read one more?" she asked. Keanu smiled. "As many as you want." They stayed there, reading the voices of strangers who once saw her as a hero. And in the quiet corners of a forgotten room, Claire began to believe again. The letter that wouldn't leave her mind that night. Claire couldn't sleep. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her hands folded over her stomach, the sound of Keanu's voice reading that letter still echoing in her mind. The words from that unknown writer, "You saved a stranger's life." Mine had wrapped around her heart like a warm scarf on a cold day. She didn't know why that one letter hit her harder than the rest, but it did. Maybe because it felt like it was written by someone who truly needed her. Not her fame, not her looks, just ... her. The city outside her window was still buzzing with lights and car horns, but in her room there was silence. And for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel crushed by it. Instead, she felt curious. Who had written that letter? Why did they never sign it? Were they still out there? By morning, her eyes were tired, but her heart felt something it hadn't in months' purpose. She got dressed slowly, wore a simple sweater, jeans, and tied her hair back in a loose bun. She didn't put on makeup, didn't try to look like Claire people expected. She just wanted to be herself today. When she walked into the kitchen, Keanu was already there. He was pouring himself tea from the pot on the stove, standing barefoot on the hardwood floor, like it was the most normal thing in the world. He looked up and smiled gently. "You okay?" he asked. Claire nodded, then sat across from him. "I couldn't stop thinking about that letter." Keanu stirred his tea. "Me neither." There was a pause, soft but full. "Do you think it's possible to find out who wrote it?" Claire asked. He looked at her, thoughtful. "Maybe, but maybe that's not the point." "Then what is?" "Maybe it's about remembering what you gave to the world, even when you didn't know it. And maybe now it's your turn to give that back to yourself." She looked at him, quiet. "You always say things like that? Like you've already lived 3 lifetimes?" He chuckled. "Some days it feels like I have." They sipped tea in silence. Later that afternoon, Claire returned to the studio with Keanu. They unlocked the old storage room again. The dust still lingered, the lights still golden. But this time, she wasn't just there to hide. She was there to learn, to remember. They read more letters together. One was from a teenage girl who had been bullied in school and said Claire's strong female character helped her stand tall again. Another was from a soldier overseas who watched Claire's comedy during night shifts to fight loneliness. Some letters were funny, filled with jokes or scribbles. Others were short, almost like whispers on paper. But all of them felt real. As the hours passed, Claire's laughter returned. Not the fake laugh she used in interviews, but the one from her heart. She laughed, then cried, then laughed again. And Keanu just sat there, patient, kind, never rushing her. "I wish I had read these sooner," she said softly. "You read them when you needed to," he replied. By sunset, Claire felt something inside her shift. She stood and looked around the room. I want to do something with these," she said. Keanu looked up. "Like what?" "I don't know yet, but they shouldn't stay locked in this box. These letters, they're stories. They're people. And if I needed to hear them, maybe others do too." He nodded slowly, like he already knew she would say that. "Then let's do it." They gathered the letters carefully, organizing them by year, by type, even decorating a few folders with small notes. Claire treated every envelope like a piece of gold. These weren't just fan letters anymore, they were proof. Proof that art mattered, kindness mattered, that her life had mattered. But just as she was packing the last few letters, she found something strange. It wasn't in an envelope. It was a folded page, tucked between two thicker stacks. The paper was torn at the top, and there was no writing. On the front, just a simple red heart drawn in crayon. When she unfolded it, her breath caught again. Inside was a photo. It showed a teenage boy, no older than 15, sitting on the edge of a hospital bed. He had no hair. Tubes were connected to his chest, but he was smiling. In his lap was a DVD copy of Claire's breakout film. And under the photo was written in small, careful ink, "He watched your movie every night before bed." He said it gave him peace. Claire held the paper close, suddenly unable to speak. Tears formed in her eyes again, but this time they weren't just from sadness. They were from awe. She looked at Keanu and handed him the paper. His face softened as he read it. "He's the one," she whispered. "I feel it. He's the one who wrote that letter." Keanu nodded. "Could be. I want to find him. What if he's gone?" Keanu asked gently. Claire looked down, her voice breaking. "Then I want to tell his story." Keanu put a hand on her shoulder, firm but gentle. "Then let's begin." That night, Claire made a promise to herself. She wouldn't run from the past anymore. She wouldn't let fear keep her from trying again. Not just for herself, but for the ones who had believed in her. The ones who had found hope in her laughter. The ones who had written words that saved her from drowning. And maybe, just maybe, she could give something back. The search begins next morning. Claire woke with a sense of direction she hadn't felt in years. She stood by the window holding a cup of tea, watching the city come to life. Taxis rolled past below. People walked fast with purpose. And the sun peeked between buildings like it was shy but trying. And for once, she didn't feel like an outsider looking in. She felt like she could belong again, not to Hollywood, not to fame, but to something honest. Something real. She turned around and looked at the photo again. It was now resting on her table next to the stack of letters. The boy's smile stayed in her head. He looked fragile, but full of light. And that tiny note he said it gave him. Peace kept echoing louder with each minute. She picked up her phone and called Keanu. "I need your help," she said. His voice came calm and ready, like he already expected the call. "I'm listening." Within an hour, he was at her apartment. They sat together with the photo and letter between them. "How do we find someone we don't have a name for?" Claire asked. Keanu looked at the photo closely. "There might be clues." "See the tag on the bed? It says Hopeway Medical Center, Claire?" Leaned in, "You're right. And that wall art looks like something from a children's ward." They quickly opened a laptop and searched for Hopeway Medical Center. It was real. A small hospital in San Diego with a children's oncology department. Claire's heart jumped. It was a start. "Do you think they'll talk to me?" she asked. "You're not just anyone, and even if you were, you're doing this from the heart. People feel that." 2 days later, they were on the road. No paparazzi. No handlers. No publicity. Just Claire, Keanu, and a quiet car ride filled with soft music and long thoughts. The drive to San Diego was peaceful. The sun shone on the hills and Claire rested her head on the window. She was nervous. Not because of crowds or cameras, but because she was about to dig into something deeply personal. Something fragile. When they reached the hospital, Claire paused before getting out of the car. "What if this hurts more than it helps?" she whispered. Keanu looked at her. "Maybe it will. But healing isn't always clean. Sometimes it comes with mess. But you're strong enough now. I can see it." His words settled her. She nodded, and they walked inside together. The hospital smelled of sanitizer and soft flowers. The receptionist looked up, surprised at first, but then smiled warmly when Claire introduced herself. "I'm not here for attention," Claire said gently. "I found a photo of a patient who stayed here. He watched one of my films while going through treatment. I'd like to know his story, if that's okay." The receptionist led them to a kind-looking nurse named Janice. She looked at the photo quietly, then sighed. "I remember him," she said softly. "His name was Jamie, sweetest boy. Loved movies. He watched the same DVD every single night." "Your movie, Claire?" It became part of his routine. Claire's throat tightened. What happened to him? Janice gave a gentle smile. He passed. Away about 7 years ago, but not before he left a mark on all of us. Claire felt the tears coming again. She didn't hold them back, Janice continued. His mom used to say, Jamie doesn't cry anymore. Claire makes him laugh before he sleeps. The nurse left for a moment and returned with a small file box. His mom donated a few things. To the hospital's memory wall, she gave us this, in case we ever wanted to share his story. Inside the box was a journal, small, leather-bound, and worn at the edges. Claire opened it carefully. Jamie's handwriting was messy, but full of life. Day 46 watched Claire's movie again. She's funny. I hope she's happy. Day 57, my doctor said the results aren't good. It's okay. Claire made me laugh today. I needed that. Day 63. I don't know if I'll make it. But if I could tell her one thing, it's thank you. She made me forget the pain. For a few minutes, that's everything. Claire's tears ran down silently. The journal was short but powerful, child's voice, full of truth. She closed the cover gently and held it close. Janice placed a hand on her shoulder. His mom still lives here. She comes by once a year on his birthday. I can give you her contact. Outside the hospital, Claire sat on the bench quietly watching. The trees sway in the wind. She felt like she had been given a sacred gift. Keanu sat beside her, hands resting on his knees. He's real, she whispered. Jamie, he really existed. He really watched me. Still watches, Keanu said. In every smile you bring back to the world. That night, Claire emailed Jamie's mother. Dear Mrs. Lang, my name is Claire. Your son Jamie once watched one of my films while he was in the hospital. I recently found a letter that may have come from him. I'm reaching out, not as an actress, but as a person who is deeply moved by your son's words. If you're willing, I'd love to meet and hear more about him. Thank you for raising a soul so kind. She hit send, heart pounding. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew one thing. This journey had already changed her, and it was only beginning. Her name was Lisa. Reply came the next morning. Claire sat at the kitchen table, staring at the blinking notification on her phone. The subject line read, Thank you for remembering my son. She took a deep breath and opened it. Dear Claire, I read your message with tears in my eyes. Jamie talked about you every day during his last months. Your movie made him feel brave, made him feel like life was still full of good things. When he passed, I kept one copy of the DVD beside his bed. I'm deeply touched that you want to meet. I would be honored to share Jamie's story with you. Please let me know when you're available. I live just outside the city, in a small cottage in Loyola. Thank you for remembering him. Sincerely, Lisa Langclair read the message 3 times before she could breathe properly. It was kind, calm, full of quiet strength. She typed her reply, slowly, choosing every word with care. And by noon, she and Keanu were back in the car. Driving down the coast toward Loyola, the ocean stretched endlessly to their right, waves crashing like slow heartbeats. Claire watched the scenery, but her thoughts were far away. She wondered what Lisa would be like, how a mother lived after losing her only son, how she smiled, how she kept going. You okay? Keanu asked gently. I'm not sure, Claire said. I feel nervous. It's like I'm about to walk into something bigger than me. Keanu nodded. You are. But you don't have to carry it alone. They pulled up to a small white cottage, tucked between wildflowers and a view of the sea. It looked like a place made for healing. As they stepped out, the front door opened. Lisa Lang stood in the doorway. She was older than Claire expected, maybe, in her late 50s, but there was warmth in her eyes. She wore a soft blue cardigan and had gentle hands that looked like they'd held sorrow and strength in equal parts. Claire, Lisa said with a smile, thank you for coming. Claire stepped forward and embraced her. It was quiet, emotional. Not the kind of hug people give out of politeness, but the kind you give when 2 lives have already touched before they ever met. Inside, the cottage smelled like lavender and sea salt. Photos lined the shelves. Jamie as a toddler, Jamie in a little baseball uniform, Jamie with no hair, still smiling. He was always smiling, Lisa said, noticing Claire's gaze. Even when he was in pain, he sat down in the sunlit living room. Lisa poured tea. Keanu sat quietly nearby, giving them space, but still present. Claire reached into her bag and pulled out the old letter. I think Jamie wrote this. She said, placing it on the table. Lisa picked it up slowly, read it with trembling hands. She nodded, eyes glassy. Yes, that's his handwriting. I recognize every loop. He didn't tell me he wrote to you. He didn't sign it, Claire said softly. Maybe he didn't think I'd ever see it. Lisa smiled sadly. He hoped. He always hoped. The room fell quiet for a moment. Just the sound of waves in the distance and teacups clinking gently. Lisa leaned back, her voice steady. Jamie had leukemia. He fought hard, but it came back. Stronger each time. During the last round of treatment, he couldn't walk much, so he stayed in bed and watched movies. Every night he chose yours. Claire swallowed hard. Why mine? Because you laughed like nothing could break you, Lisa said. He said watching you gave him courage. If you could smile through the chaos of your character's life, maybe he could too. Welled up in Claire's eyes. She had played that role when she was barely starting out. She didn't even know if it was any good. But now it didn't matter. I didn't know I could mean that much to someone, she whispered. You did, Lisa said. You still do. They talked for hours. Lisa told Claire about Jamie's love for space, for animals, for peanut butter toast. She showed her the small notebook Jamie used to keep, full of sketches and dreams, and then she showed her one last thing, a sealed envelope, slightly worn. He wrote one more letter, Lisa said. I kept it. He told me not to open it unless you came looking. Claire's breath caught. Lisa handed it to her. Claire opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a single sheet of paper, neat handwriting, full of effort and love. Dear Claire, I don't know if you'll ever find this, but if you do, I want to say thank you. I'm not scared anymore. Your movie made me laugh when I didn't think I could. Your smile made me forget. I was sick. If you're reading this, please don't feel sad. Just keep smiling for others. Keep being that light. The world needs it. Your friend Jamie. Claire held the letter to her chest. She couldn't stop the tears now. They came freely and she let them. Lisa reached over and took her hand. He would be so proud of you. Keanu placed a gentle hand on Claire's shoulder. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. In that moment, something healed inside Claire. Not fully, not forever, but enough to breathe again, enough to hope. I want to tell his story, Claire said. The real story. I want the world to know who he was. Lisa nodded, then tell it. But do it your way, not for fame, for love. Claire smiled through her tears. I promise. As they left the cottage, the sky turned gold with evening light. Claire stood by the cliffside, looking out at the waves. She didn't feel lost anymore. She felt found. She found her voice against days that followed moved differently. Claire returned to Los Angeles with a new kind of energy. She didn't rush back into the spotlight, and she didn't make a big announcement. Instead, she kept things quiet, focused, honest. She knew now that healing wasn't something loud or dramatic. It was slow, patient, like sunlight creeping through a closed curtain. And now, that light had finally reached her. Jamie's letter lived on her bedside table. Every morning, she read it. Not to cry, but to remember. To stay grounded in what mattered. It wasn't about awards or headlines anymore. It was about meaning, truth, connection. One morning, while sitting across from Keanu in the same small cafe where they often met, Claire said something that made him look up with a smile. I think I want to make a documentary, she said. Keanu put down his cup. About Jamie? About all of it, Claire replied. The letters, the stories, the people who are touched by things they never expected to change them. I want to use the fan mail. I want to talk to others like Lisa. I want to tell their stories not as a star, but as someone who's listening now. Keanu nodded slowly. That's beautiful. I want you to help me, she said, looking at him seriously. You were there. You saw me at my lowest, and you didn't walk away. Keanu looked at her for a long moment, then said, I'll be there for every frame. They started the very next week. The idea wasn't flashy. Claire didn't want lights or scripts or expensive backdrops. She wanted truth, real people, real words. So they hired a small, honest crew of people who believed in storytelling. People who didn't ask for credit or spotlight. The project was called Letters That Saved Me. The first shoot took place back in the same storage room. Claire sat on the floor, just like before, surrounded by the old letters. She read one out. Loud, pausing to breathe between the lines. Her voice cracked at times, but she never cut the camera. She wanted the vulnerability to stay. She spoke to the camera like she was talking to Jamie. I forgot who I was, forgot what I meant to people, but your words brought me back. You didn't know me, but you believed in me. And that saved something in me that I thought was gone. The crew stood silent behind the lens, moved by the rawness, day by day. Claire and Keanu reached out to others who had written fan letters years ago. They found a young woman who said Claire's film gave her strength to leave an abusive home. They met a retired teacher who used scenes from Claire's comedy to help shy students come out of their shell. Every story layered meaning into the project, but there was one story that stayed with Claire the most. A letter from a man named Joseph, now in his 30s. He had been homeless as a teen, wrote that Claire's film, one he had found playing through the window of an electronics shop, had made him laugh so hard he forgot he was cold for an hour. He said that moment gave him the will to keep going. They flew to Chicago to meet him. He was tall, quiet, and worked in a shelter now. When he saw Claire, he didn't act starstruck, just hugged her. "Thank you for saving that kid version of me," said. When Claire asked if he'd read his letter on camera, he agreed. As Joseph read it, even the sound engineer wiped his eyes. The documentary grew stronger with each story. The more Claire leaned into the vulnerability, the more powerful the project became. And with every interview, every memory, Claire found her voice again. The voice that gave interviews or read scripts, but the one inside her heart. One night, after reviewing some footage in the editing studio, Claire and Keanu sat on the rooftop under the stars. The city lights blinked below like fireflies trapped in glass. "Do you miss it?" Keanu asked. "The old life?" Claire thought for a while. "I miss the girl I used to be before all the noise. But I think, like, the woman I'm becoming, even more." He nodded. "She's worth liking," she smiled. "You saved me too, you know." "You saved yourself," he said quietly. "I just reminded you that you could." The next day, Claire received a message from Lisa Lang. "Just watch the preview. Jamie would have loved it." "Thank you for keeping his light alive," Claire replied with one sentence. His light brought mine back. When the documentary was finished, Claire didn't hold a big premiere. Instead, she screened it in a small community center. She invited the people who wrote the letters, their families, the shelter workers, the hospital nurses, Lisa and Keanu. The room held barely 80 seats, but it felt like the entire world was inside. As the screen darkened after the final scene, the room stayed silent. No claps, no whistles, just quiet tears, soft smiles. Full hearts then, one by one, people stood. They hugged, they thanked Claire. But most of all, they told her what she now believed deep inside. "You matter. Your story saved mine. Thank you for coming back." And for the first time in her life, Claire didn't feel like she was performing. She felt like she was home. The final letter, days after the screening, felt different. People reached out from across the country. Emails poured in. Some from fans who had long since stopped watching movies, others from young people just discovering Claire's work. Messages came in from nurses, teachers, and even a group of high school students who had watched the documentary in class. But Claire didn't let the attention rush to her head. This time, she knew how to keep her feet on the ground. She walked slower, talked softer, smiled more, not for cameras, but for people. For herself, Keanu stayed close, as always. Not hovering, but nearby, like a lighthouse on the shore. Their friendship had become something deeper. It was rooted in truth now. No performance, no pretense. Just the quiet understanding of two souls who had seen each other through the storm. One morning, Claire visited the studio where the old storage room still sat. The room was empty. No more letters. No more dust. She had donated the letters to an archive that would preserve them properly. Some were scanned and displayed in an online gallery so others could read them. Others were boxed and returned to the writers who wanted them back. But Claire came here, one last time, for something else. She knelt in the middle of the room and placed a single envelope on the floor. It was new, white, sealed on the front. She had written in neat handwriting, "To the next soul who needs a reason to stay." Inside the envelope was her letter. "Dear stranger, you don't know me, but maybe you've seen my face somewhere. Not important. What matters is, the sigh once forgot who I was. I thought I had lost everything that made me real.
Ow.
But then I found a letter, and that letter saved me.
Ow.
It reminded me that being seen, truly seen, can bring us back to life. Someone out there believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. If you are reading this, maybe you're lost too. Maybe you're hurting. Maybe the world feels too loud, or too quiet, or too heavy. But I want you to know you matter. Your pain doesn't make you weak. Your silence doesn't make you invisible. Your story isn't over. Sometimes, the light returns in unexpected ways. For me, it came through the voice of a boy I never met. For you, maybe it's this letter. Maybe it's tomorrow. Maybe it's a laugh you didn't expect. But it will come. I believe in you. Keep going. With love, Claresh left the letter there. No cameras, no crew, just her. As she stepped out into the hallway, the sunlight hit her face in a way that made her stop. It wasn't dramatic, but it felt like a soft whisper from the universe. A gentle thank you from someone unseen. A few weeks later, Letters That Saved Me premiered on a streaming platform known for supporting independent creators. It didn't go viral overnight. It didn't win awards, but it reached the people it was meant to reach. One viewer wrote, "I was going to give up tonight, but then I watched your story. I cried. I remembered my sister who always loved your movies. She's gone now, but I felt her beside me. Thank you for reminding me that love doesn't disappear. It just changes shape." Another simply wrote, "Your letter found me just in time, Claire. Kept every message." She printed them out and placed them in a new box. Not a dusty one in the back of her room, but a bright wooden box she kept on her bookshelf. She called it her light box. One evening, Claire and Keanu walked along the beach near her home. The waves were gentle, the sky a soft pink. They didn't talk much, just let the silence say what words couldn't. After a while, Claire turned to him. "I don't want to go back to the old life," she said. "You don't have to," he replied. "You're building a new one." "Do you think it'll last?" "Think anything built with truth lasts," he said. They sat on a bench overlooking the water. "I never thanked you properly," Claire said, "for finding me in that room, for reading that letter, for staying." Keanu smiled, his eyes calm like the ocean. "You don't have to thank me. I didn't save you. I just reminded you of the light you'd forgotten you carried." Claire leaned her head against his shoulder. They watched the horizon together, the world slowly fading into stars. That night, Claire wrote one final journal entry in the notebook Jamie's mom had given her. "Dear Jamie, you never knew the chain reaction your letter would start. Because of you, I remembered who I am. Because of you, others now remember they matter too. I hope wherever you are, you're smiling. I hope you know your story didn't end with you. It lives on in every heart you helped heal. Thank you, my friend." With love, Clarioned. With that, the story wasn't finished, simply opened into something new. Because sometimes the smallest letter can write the biggest change. And sometimes all it takes to bring someone back is one voice, one memory, one unexpected light in a forgotten room.